Welcome to Little More. I'm your host, Stella Littlemore, mindset coach, lifelong student of personal growth, and someone who's here to challenge, support, and remind you just how capable you really are. This podcast is all about ditching self-doubt, building unshakable confidence, and stepping into that version of yourself, the one who actually believes she can have it all. You can expect real talk, a little tough love, and the occasional existential crisis because, let's be real, growth isn't always glamorous. But here's the truth. You are worthy of more, and together, we're going to make sure it happens. Hello, my loves. Welcome back to another episode of Little More. I, as always, am excited to bring you girls another episode. And in this week's episode, we're talking about doing the thing that scares you. And I just want to share like a bit of my journey and a bit of a story because I am coming to the end of a big transition, a big season of taking a leap of faith, believing in myself and trusting me for not once, but I think I live a lot of my life thinking and worrying and listening to other people's opinions and what they're telling me to do. And instead of actually just looking within and asking myself, like, what is the right decision and making the decision that feels most aligned to me and my intuition. And I think that sometimes the scariest thing isn't actually taking the leap. It's walking away from something that feels like it almost is working and wondering if the leap of faith is the thing that's going to work better or feel more aligned. And I want you as a listener to take a moment to reflect on a time where you realized that you're taking advice from somebody that you wouldn't necessarily trade places with. Because this was the moment that shifted everything for me. And wow. Something I heard once, which is stuck with me for life, is you wouldn't take fat loss advice from a fat person. You have to look at the people that you're taking advice from and really recognize and ask yourself, is this somebody that I would trade places with? Now, I started coaching with a particular person. I was doing a bit of business coaching with them and it was really great. I got a lot out of it. I learnt so much, but it got to a certain point where I just felt stuck. Something just didn't feel right. I felt this deep internal misalignment. And I think starting a business is always going to come with a lot of pressure and a lot of wondering if you're making the right decision, if you're doing the right things, if you could be doing things better. It comes with a lot of internal criticism and a lot of pressure and doubt. And that's just part of starting a business. But this particular business coach was teaching a lot of bro marketing, pain point selling. That was kind of the way that he structured his business. And I listened to a lot of it. And I'm not going to lie to you girls, I did get results and I did start working with clients, I guess, off the back of that style of coaching. But it just felt so unaligned. And I reached a certain point where I looked at this coach and I was like, is this how I want to be doing it? Like the people that this person is coaching are people who are coming to this person off the back of reaching a pain point. And I do understand like pain sells, people move when they're in pain. And I think it's important to reflect on that and be able to recognize that as a buyer that something isn't working. But to buy in a place of pain is not productive. And you're inviting people into your world that are in a place of low self-worth and low, like, doubting themselves. Anyway, I looked at this person that I was working with and I recognized like that's not the kind of people I want to be calling in. That's not the kind of women that I want to be working with, because that is going to come with a lot of hand holding. And I want women coming into my world that are ready to take the action and that are so deeply committed to their personal development journey that they're desperately going to want the results that I desperately want for them, rather than inviting these women in who are not empowered within themselves and are not making a decision that empowers and inspires and motivates them. And anyway, I looked at this relationship, this coaching relationship, and I recognized like this is not how I want to be doing things. I feel so deeply out of alignment and it's just, this doesn't feel right. And this coach kept saying to me like, you should be you, like, if you listen to me and you listen to my advice, you'd be successful by now. You would have XYZ, trying to put me in that place of pain to listen to them. I guess as a consequence, putting me down, making myself worth lower, my doubting myself more, really fulfilling a lot of limiting beliefs that I held about myself. And I really sat with myself and I was like, this isn't how I want to do it. And I'm learning from someone that doesn't have a business that I want. I don't aspire to be hurting people and to be putting people down daily on social media. That's not what I want to be doing. And if that means I earn less, or because this person was earning a lot of money, my fear was like, how they're doing it is working, and I could keep doing this. I was getting clients. I was making an income from this business, but it just didn't feel right to me. And I didn't want to do it. I was like, if this is what coaching means, I don't want to do it. And so I journaled, I reflected on this, and I kind of put out into the universe that I kind of wanted to work with a female business coach. I've mentioned Riley on here a few times, I think, but that's when I came across a amazing woman on social media, on Instagram actually, Riley May, and she talks about this feminine led sales and all of that. And I remember looking at her content and consuming it and learning, and then obviously went on to work with her. Funnily enough, I've been reflecting on this over the last couple of days and thinking about bringing an episode, and I realized when I came across Riley, I looked at her life and I was like, for so long, didn't think I'd ever want to move back to Australia. And when I came across her account, I was like, wow, like I started romanticizing living back in Australia. At this point, I was living in Dubai, I was in a relationship, I was unhappy. And I knew that, and I felt deeply out of alignment, as I mentioned, in my business, in my relationship, everything. And this woman, Riley, I just started romanticizing living back in Australia again. At that point, I did not think that I was going to leave Dubai, but I knew I was unhappy. So I guess it's easy to look at somebody else's life and think the grass is greener. Anyway, I started working with Riley and I was learning about feminine led sales because I knew that my product was good. I knew that I was giving women results, but the way that I was bringing them in and the women that I was attracting was not, that felt out of alignment. I didn't feel comfortable with selling myself online and getting girls on and pressuring them and putting them in a place of pain to get them over the line to start working with me. And as a result, having these women that weren't quite ready to make that investment into themselves and they weren't quite ready to take the action. Like, I don't need to tell you that you're in pain or that you're feeling stuck or that you're struggling with your confidence or your self-worth or your self-doubt. You already know that. And I think in me telling you that and making you feel like shit about yourself, it's not attracting the right women that I want to be bringing in. I want women to be able to recognize that but feel empowered in that process. And I really learned that and affirmed that a lot with Riley. Anyway, this business coach got not very happy that I started working with another coach, and I guess would have been quite threatening to see me now start getting more results with and seeing my business grow with somebody that wasn't him. And long story short, everything blew up in Dubai. The business coach, the relationship, everything. And I ended up moving back to Australia. And honestly, it was that seed that was planted when I came across Riley of romanticizing Australia that made me feel so much more comfortable moving back to Australia. And I learned a lot in trusting my intuition and having more integrity within myself and knowing that my values, what they are and how strongly I hold those to myself, to trust me in making the decisions aligned with those values rather than relying so heavily on other people's inputs and other people's way of doing things. And so I took a big step back from my business. I really did an audit on my life and figuring out the direction I wanted to take and staying strong to my values and how did I want to deliver that and what needed to be true for me. And I realized that I was qualified to coach. I was qualified to give advice. That's not where my lack of qualifications came from. But because of my lack of belief within myself to create a business that felt aligned and safe for me and my nervous system. As a result of that and me not feeling safe within my own business and the way that it was structured and the way that I was inviting women into my world, as a result, I became a place that wasn't safe to land. And that is crucial when creating a business, is creating a space that women feel safe to land. Because if they don't feel safe to land, they're not going to stay with you. You might be able to pressure them or pain point them into coming into this world to work with you. But ultimately, energy doesn't lie. And if you have women coming into your world, or this, really feel like this message can be applied to so many things in your life. So then, I had to recognize what had to be true in order for me to have the business that I wanted. And so it was that point that I thought about getting some qualifications, kind of specializing in various things rather than just being this broad thing. And so I started looking into qualifications. So that's when I got my manifestation coaching certificate, my NLP certificate, my life coaching certificate, trauma-informed therapy, all of that. I took a risk. I took a bet on myself and I was like, no, 19 miles is everything to me. This is a business that I want to have forever. This is my forever. And I truly believe that this is my calling and what I was put on this planet to do. And so I learnt all about that. I did business coaching programs. I listened to podcasts. I read books. I just delved massively into my education and further qualifying myself. And I learnt so much as a result of that. And then, funnily enough, along this journey of furthering my education and becoming more qualified or whatever, I found out that one of the coaches that I had previously worked with, I didn't do a background check because I just trusted her. And I found out that she is a previously convicted, how do I word this? She was, I've tried to say this so many times. This has been a really hard pill for me to swallow. She was previously convicted of SA and she did time for that crime. And this broke me. I've really not known how to talk about it, but it really hurt me to find that out. And it just really, after going through I didn't think I would get like this. After going through such a hard business coaching relationship and being put in a place where I was put down constantly and I didn't believe in myself, and having another coach turn out to be a convicted person, it really, really impacted me, and it really solidified how unregulated the coaching industry is. And so I'd started my qualifications and I was just like, this is why this is so important for me to get more qualifications and make sure that I'm somebody in this industry that is more regulated. Because the reality is the coaching industry is unregulated. And when you have people like the experiences that I've just shared out in the world, it can be so detrimental to people. And I think there are a lot of people in this industry with the wrong intentions that are on a power trip or just simply not educated to coach people. You're impacting people's lives, and I think that that's something to take seriously. I think it's something that you have to show up with integrity. Those experiences really solidified how important it is to ensure that I was showing up with integrity and leaving an imprint on society that's adding value and having a positive impact on people and staying true to my values. So I got qualified, I did all of that and learned a lot. And then as a result, 6 months of putting my head down and doing things and letting go of the fear of being judged, letting go of the fear of slowing down while other people were progressing and growing in their business. I just had to let go, let go, let them, and let me. And so I made that bet on myself, and it was scary. It was lonely at times. Nobody understood. I feared massively the judgment of me not showing up the same as I did. I feared losing clients. I feared a lot of things. But now I'm on the other end of that. And as a result, like, I've set myself little goals in my business, and the success that I'm having in just ticking off these little things in my business, I look around myself and I look at the clients that I'm attracting. I look at the relationship that I'm in. I look at the house that I live in. I look at the place that I live, and seeing just how aligned everything is, having my family around me, being in a healthy, loving, committed, stable relationship, having so much support around me, a business that serves me and lights me up and makes me feel fulfilled, and just it energizes me. Whereas before I was just drained and broken every single day. And everyone kept telling me, like, that's starting a business, it's exhausting. And don't get me wrong, it comes with a lot of challenges and it's scary and stressful and so much pressure, believe me, but it shouldn't leave you feeling broken. I think there's a big difference between feeling unaligned and feeling aligned. And you really, as a high value woman, and I know you, every single one of you listening, you are a high value woman, because if you weren't, you would not be here listening to me talk. But you have to trust yourself. You have to trust your intuition. You have to trust the pull that is inside you, because I promise you that was not planted there for no reason. And I hope that in you hearing this story, I have been in coaching relationships that were unaligned. I've learnt things. I listened to my gut. I walked away from those relationships. I walked away from Dubai. I walked away what was not fulfilling me and what was not aligned. And as a result, I've had various little things happen that have just made it all make sense, reinforced that everything happens for a reason, for the better. And if it weren't for all of these things happening, maybe I would never have come across Riley, and the seed wouldn't have been planted that I should romanticize Australia more and appreciate it more. And then maybe I wouldn't have thought to move back here in my last breakup. Maybe I would have stayed in Dubai, or maybe I would have went back to Bali. But every single thing led me to where I am now. And yeah, there was a long time of working silently, nobody seeing the things that I was working on. But now, as a result, the life that I have created and the opportunities and the clients and the relationships that I attract are a result of me taking a bet on myself and me listening to my intuition, listening to my gut, and making decisions based on what I knew I needed. And in me listening to my heart, it allowed me space. It allowed me time to realign, to come to terms with everything that had happened, and to find peace. And now, over time, I can see all of those little decisions that I made have stacked up. And I can see that in my momentum, my self-trust, having a business that reflects and is rooted in my authenticity and my integrity. I think that in life, you're going to have people around you that you respect and that you admire. And regardless of that respect and the admiration and the love that you might have for them, they're not always going to know what is the right decision for you. And even if I look back at the first time I invested in a coach, do you know how many of my friends were looked at me and judged me and thought, that's a lot of money. Are you sure? Who do you think you're going to be? But if I hadn't have made that bet on myself, I wouldn't be here now with a business that serves me and fulfills me, with the podcast, talking to you girls, impacting so many women. And sometimes you do have to make the decision that scares you. You do have to go against what everybody is saying to you, despite how much you respect and admire them. And I want to remind you, no one knows what's aligned for you better than you. The life and the business that you crave is going to be found in doing the scary thing that feels right, rather than doing the easy thing that feels wrong. I want to end this episode with a few questions that I want you girls to ask yourself. Where in your life or your business are you maybe ignoring your gut? Who in your life are you taking advice from, and do they actually reflect a life that you want to live or the person that you want to become? And what scary decision are you sitting on right now that you know deep down would allow you to feel like you're coming back home to yourself, the alignment that you're craving, that fulfillment? Ask yourself those three things and DM me what your answers are, because I love hearing from you girls. that brings this week's episode to an end. I hope you enjoyed. I need to get better at my endings, but if you're listening on YouTube, like, subscribe to stay up to date with the episodes. If you're listening on podcast, follow to stay up to date, and don't forget to rate the podcast if you're enjoying. I will see you all in next week's episode. Love you so much. Bye.